Hello and welcome to another Here's the Storm Quick Tip. Today I just wanted to quickly go over the patch notes and my thoughts after I've had, about a week to actually go over the changes and the buffs and the nerfs. The biggest one by far is Blaze. Moving Crossfire to baseline is pretty huge. So with no other talents, your wave clear on Blaze is roughly 6 to 8 seconds. As long as you crossfire the entire wave, not all the minions are going to get hit by both streams, so you won't get the bonus on everybody. But as long as you do that and angle your autos correctly, even with other talents, you're going to clear waves pretty damn quick. The other big deal is your on 13 got moved to 7. And so you get suppressive fire much sooner. And for those of you who don't know, suppressive fire is 25% spell power reduction for, I believe it's 4 seconds. And that is per flame stream. So in other words, if you hit somebody with just one of the two, that are 25%, it caps at 50. If you hit somebody with both, then you are good to go and you get the full 50%. Now, obviously, I don't need to tell you, especially if you've played Hogger and you've tried Pummel or played against it, you know how annoying, a 50% spell power debuff can be, especially if you hit, obviously mages, but also like healers and such. They all get punished pretty hard by that. The other big deal is on 13, Collision Course, which is essentially just an E damage buff. And so something to consider is that 325, not only is that like a fair amount, but you really need to keep in mind that is the level 0 bonus amount. You're going to be dealing your E between 800 and 1,000 damage in the late game just by hitting one hero with your E. So combine that with auto crossfire and the scaling on all that, and you're looking at roughly 1,500 damage to anyone you can, the first hero you hit with the E, essentially. And if you hit multiple people and you splash your crossfire, you're talking about a significant amount of damage to a group of heroes, and especially whoever you hit. But like when you have stuff like you land your tanky and it does 1,000 damage, that's like Diablo kind of numbers. Like when you're just going to deal 1,500 to an out of position squishy. So by far, Blaze saw the biggest jump. I would say he's a little overtuned as an offlaner. As a main tank, he still struggles with the same problems, which is most teams don't know how to play around oil. They don't know how to play around bunker. And those are the two biggest things. One is the best engage and one is the best counter engage tool. And if your team doesn't know how to play around those, then Blaze isn't all that good as a main tank. You can't just like oil E into the enemy team if they're like awake and have any kind of countermeasures, because E's startup is still very punishable or interrupted, if they have the right heroes. So just something to keep in mind. As an offlaner, though, he brings a lot of what you want in terms of CC, from the oil slows and the E, and bunker is just a great engage to have, or counter engage to have. Combustion actually isn't too bad as an engage too, because as an offlaner, you're usually going to be looking for flanks in fights instead of being the frontliner. You don't have to like worry about pushing the enemy team back. So that was the biggest change, and that was the most I'm going to talk. I'm going to quickly speed through the rest. Murden, he got Pierce Quest now by default at 10. That means not only will some people who are bad at getting Stormbolts get it earlier than usual, but also in games where there's just not a lot of fighting going on, and there are those that exist, especially in competitive, you will guarantee your power spike, which is really great. I think Perfect Storm on 1 is kind of crap now. I don't think you get enough out of it from the auto attacks and such to make it worthwhile over armor or third wind, but I'd have to play with it more for, to say 100% just never pick it. Like, so slight bump. Johanna, same deal. Her Iron Skin got slightly better. So slight buff there. Plus they fixed her bugs with Falling Sword, so it's pickable. I would say again, Falling Sword is still weaker than Blessed until 20, at which point Falling Sword is ridiculous, but that was always true even before the tweaks. Also, for those who want to know a build, I still like Laws of Hope, Hold Your Ground on 1 and 4, and then going into Conviction on 7, Blessed on 10, Blessed Hammer on 13. 16 is kind of whatever you think is best. And then 20 is Blessed Upgrade typically. And that's what I like. It scales pretty hard into the like late game post 13 because the hammers really add up and it's easy to trigger multiples as long as you're hitting multiple people with either your Condemn or your Glare. And so Imperius, Holy Fervor is the big change there. You actually have some wave clear on him, plus some base health and damage increases, which is like, you know, always nice. Or not health, sorry. It's just the damage. Rather, the W got a boost increase along with the base auto attack. But yeah, Holy Fervor giving 2 cleaves on Molten Armor. That's kind of cool. I really like that. And so I think now with real wave clear, you can justify taking him in some situations. Whereas up till now, with his massive damage debuffs, I didn't think this was a viable character to ever pick. So I would recommend messing around with him and taking Holy Fervor on 7 and see how you like the hero now. Raynor, they buffed his damage. Great, good. He needed it. Exterminator is still usually the go-to. I think on certain maps where you don't need quite as much damage, the macro pressure he provides is still very good, and he's worthwhile. Garrosh, they made into the fray baseline, so by default he got better. I don't see this changing a ton, except for pissing people off in the early game more. Orphea and Anduin both saw some changes. Anduin saw too many to go over. Actually, I should put him in the small jump because he did receive a bunch of buffs. But the whole thing is like his niche as a healer that's basically based around like trying to constantly heal his team, has a pull, has light bomb, and those are his main traits. They really haven't changed. They're just trying to buff him out of the gutter. And so I don't know if these buffs will do enough to do that. But we will see. It's possible he finally gets where he needs to be. On Hero's profile, it looks like he is no longer the lowest win rate healer, which is something he enjoyed for quite a while. So, probably going to actually be here, and maybe even here, who knows. But, yeah. Orphea, the biggest change to her that anyone will care about is that on 20, her Crushing Jaws upgrade, Engulfing Oblivion, does 50 armor reduction. That is the largest in the game. If you ever land it, you should be able to kill whoever you've landed on pretty easily. Minus 50 is ridiculous. So if you set up a CC combo and hit a clump with this 20, you should immediately win the fight. So if you want to mess around with that in coordinated, I would say, hey, give it a go. Otherwise, not much changed. She's really good in the low CC comps where you can consistently rely on hitting Qs and Ws. But otherwise, you can't really pick her. She's just not quite safe enough and consistent enough. But into those low CC comps, she destroys. Stitches received a slight nerf. I mean, that's fine. He was arguably the best tank, and now he's slightly more in line with the field. Brightwing, they nerfed Hyper Shift. Very minor nerf for her. She's still great. It's just she's a little less great. Hyper Shift, by the way, is the number 1 level 1 talent taken in the game. It's not even close. So not surprised to see a nerf there. I wouldn't be surprised to see 1 or 2 other tweaks to her in the future. Also, her Emerald Wind got a bump on 20. That's huge. Because Emerald Wind is typically taken in very specific circumstances where you're phasing in on a diver or something, or used purely as a counter engage tool. And now 20, being able to spam Emerald Winds, it's not going to be useful all the time, but when it is, it's going to just be game breaking. So something to look out for. Stukov obviously got disabled because he had so many bugs. I think that was a net positive based on what I've seen. But again, like until all the bugs are fixed, we just won't know how good or bad Stukov is. I mean, obviously, I think he'll still be viable even if he got weaker. But right now, we don't know if those side grades they gave his level ones are actually going to be buffs in the end. They're really interesting though, and I like what they did with the hero. I just don't know how good they are going to be. And there was one I missed, which is Valla. Uh, she is a slight nerf, same deal. Her W build got weaker. In competitive play, she was never a number one pick anyway, no matter what people think. Unless you were double supporting, she just required too much babysitting, and other DPS could trade into her. And if she ever got caught out with CC, she should just die instantly. And so this is all still true, and her best build got nerfed, so obviously this is a nerf for her. In Storm League, she's still like first pickable, but I would say people are very overconfident on their ability to not die on her. And so play safer, take Gloom, take the range on 20. That is the main thing I'll tell you with Valla. Otherwise, if you can play her well, she's still pretty free into most comps, so enjoy. And that's it. I thought it was a pretty good patch overall. These are just my general thoughts. Again, the most interesting thing is obviously Blaze is like a tier 1 offlaner now, and we saw that in CCL as well. A lot of Blaze picks. And then Stukov being so bugged that it's impossible to judge how good or bad he currently is. So yeah, I think that sums it up. Thanks for watching.